Persuasion is a fundamental aspect of our daily lives. Whether we're trying to convince our friends to try a new restaurant or convince a new client to be part of our business, we are using persuasion and influence every day. Robert Cialdini is a psychologist and author and has written very famous books about the science of persuasion, and I'm going to take you through those underlying principles here today. You can use those principles to effectively persuade and influence others. These principles have been extensively researched and proven in a variety of situations. We're going to explore how you can use these principles in your personal and professional life to persuade and influence other people. Whether you're an entrepreneur, business professional, marketer, or just wanting to know some tips and tricks on how to influence and persuade people, this video is going to tell you all the tips and tricks you need to know. You're going to learn how to become more persuasive and influential in your communication with others. As well as talking about these principles, I'm also going to give you great examples of how you can put these into practice. Hi, my name is Sarah Butler and I'm a marketing and communications professional with over 20 years experience. So please like and subscribe to my channel because these are the type of videos I do every week. Principle number one is called reciprocity. This principle is based on the fact that people feel more indebted to you and feel like they have to give something back to you if you give something to them in the first place. People feel like they have to repay you for what they've already received. According to this principle, we feel indebted to people who do us a favour, and we're more likely to comply with a request if that person has done us a favour in the past. Here are some examples of how this works in real life. Free samples. Retailers and marketers often use this trick based on the principle of reciprocity. By giving someone a free sample, you're creating a sense of obligation in the person who's received it, which in turn increases the likelihood that that person's going to make a future purchase. Gift giving. When people give gifts, they actually often expect something in return. That's because the act of gift giving creates a sense of obligation and reciprocity. For example, if a friend gives you a thoughtful gift, then you feel obligated or feel like you need to give something back in return. Next example is helping others. When you help others, they are more likely to return the favour to you and help you out as well. And that's because the act of helping out creates the feeling of reciprocity and the feeling of obligation that they have to do it in return. For example, if you help a co-worker with a big project at work, they are then going to be more likely to help you out with your next task or project. Another example of this in the marketing world is giving away of free content. Content creators and marketers use this principle of reciprocity when they give away free content like blog articles, ebooks, podcasts, those sorts of things. By providing valuable content for free, they're creating a sense of obligation and indebtedness, which increases the likelihood that the audience will return the favour by buying something or supporting their content by taking an action. Principle number two is commitment and consistency. This principle is based on the idea that we tend to behave in a way that's consistent. So how we've acted in the past will impact how we act now and into the future. We have a natural tendency to remain consistent with our actions and our decisions. According to this principle, once we make a choice or make a stand on a particular issue, we feel the pressure to remain consistent with that choice. And that's because we do that to maintain our self-image and rationale as a consistently acting person. Here's some examples of how that works in real life. The first is the foot in the door technique. This is a classic example of consistency in action. This is based on the principle that if we make a small request that somebody agrees to initially, we can then go on and make larger and larger requests. The idea is that the person will agree to the larger request because they've already agreed to the previous smaller request we made. For example, a charity might ask somebody to sign a petition or wear a small pin to support their cause. Once they've done this, then the organisation might go on and ask for an actual monetary donation from the person. This becomes more likely to happen because they've already taken an action and shown support for the organisation. Next is making a public commitment, and this is a powerful way to activate the principle of consistency and commitment. When people publicly state their beliefs or intentions, they then feel more pressure to remain committed and consistent with that in order to maintain their image as a consistent person. A good example of this is someone who publicly announces that they're going to start a new exercise regime. They are more likely to stick with it because they have announced it publicly and they don't want to be seen as breaking that commitment. Consistency in advertising. Marketers often use this principle by creating taglines or catchy phrases that they use again and again in their advertising and promotional efforts. They make these catchphrases easily to remember and repeat. This repetition makes it more likely that the person will remember the phrase and therefore convert into a paying customer. For example, with Nike's slogan, "Just Do It," it's become synonymous with the brand and is easily recognizable by most people. This consistency in advertising has created further brand awareness for Nike and kept it top in mind for consumers. Principle 3 is social proof. The principle of social proof is built on the idea that people will look to others to see what's the right thing to do and follow their behaviour. According to this principle, we're more likely to do and follow others when we're uncertain about what to do ourselves, or when we perceive others as having more expertise or knowledge about the subject. Here are some examples of how this works in real life. Have you ever been to a new city or town and wondered where to go for dinner? If you see a restaurant with a line out the door and a crowded dining room, you're going to think that that place must be good based on the popularity of others using it. That's a simple case of social proof in action. By observing the behaviours of others, you're using it as evidence of what is a good or appropriate action to take for yourself. Advertisers also use celebrity endorsements as a form of social proof. By associating a product with a celebrity, you are making the assumption that if this celebrity likes it, the product must be really good. This can tip you over into making a purchase because we often assume that that celebrity has the expertise or knowledge that we don't and is therefore endorsing the product, and so should we. Online reviews are also a really powerful source of social proof. When you're thinking about whether to buy a product or service, you often look online to review sites to see what others have said. If a product has many positive reviews, people are more likely to buy it because they can see that others have had a positive experience with it. In emergency situations, we often look to others to see what to do. For example, if a building is on fire, people will often follow others who seem to know what they're doing. Again, this is another example of social proof because we're relying on the actions of others to guide our own actions. Principle 4 is authority. Similar to the previous example, this principle is based on the theory that we are more likely to do what somebody else tells us if we perceive them as having more knowledge, expertise, experience, and therefore authority. If we perceive somebody has authority, we're more likely to trust them and follow their advice and be guided by their actions. Here's some example of how this principle works in real life. For example, when we're sick, we go to the doctor or the medical centre, and that's because we believe that these people have the authority, the knowledge and expertise that we don't. We assume they have the knowledge to be able to diagnose us and make us better. Even if we don't fully understand why they're giving us this advice, prescriptions or any other medical advice, we do so because we assume they have the correct authority and they know what they're doing. Police officers, firemen, people in the military, we often follow their directions because of their authority. Their uniforms are a symbol of authority and we perceive them as having more authority and knowledge than we do often. They influence us to follow their commands, even sometimes if we're not quite sure why. Expert opinions and endorsements. When we see and hear from experts or people with great wealth of knowledge, we are more likely to do what they say and take an action they direct us to take. And if you use this in marketing, that could be to make a purchase. Just like when the dentist recommends a brand of toothpaste. We're more likely to buy that brand of toothpaste because we assume the dentist has more knowledge and skills and expertise than we do. People who have impressive titles or credentials like a PhD or a CEO of a large organisation are often perceived as having more authority and expertise. They can influence people to trust and follow their advice. For example, if a financial analyst is also the CEO of a finance company and has a master's degree, we are more likely to assume that they know what they're talking about in that area and take their recommendations for investment options. Principle 5 is liking. Liking is very simple. It's based on the principle that we're more likely to follow the directions or be persuaded by somebody we like. According to this principle, we tend to like people who are similar to us, pay us compliments, and cooperate with us towards a common goal. Here's some examples of how this works in real life. Similarity. We tend to like people who are similar to us in terms of background, goals, interests, and values. For example, if you meet someone and they went to the same college as you or has the same hobby, we're more likely to forge a connection and like them. When people pay us compliments, we tend to like them more also. That's because compliments tend to boost our self-esteem and make us feel better, and they're really good for our ego, which we love. For example, in the workplace, if somebody tells us we did a really good job on that project, we are more likely to trust them and like them. When we cooperate with others and work towards a common goal, we are more likely to like and trust them. This is because we feel a sense of camaraderie and teamwork. For example, if you collaborate with a co-worker on a project, you've both put in a lot of time and effort to bring it to success, you're more likely to build a really good relationship, a connection, and trust and like that person. And it's been shown that we are more likely to like someone who is physically attractive. That's because we tend to associate attractive people with things like health, intelligence, and kindness. Principle 6 is called scarcity. This principle is based on the idea that we're more motivated by the thought of losing something than we are by the thought of gaining something. According to this principle, we tend to put more value on things that are rare, only available for a little limited time, or difficult to obtain. Here's some examples of how this works in real life. Limited time offers. Retailers use this principle all the time. For example, they might create a 24-hour sale to promote the feeling of scarcity. This promotion then in turn prompts people to take action before the offer finishes. By emphasising that this offer is only available for a short time, the retailer is using the principle of scarcity to make the offer seem more valuable. Limited edition products are a good example of the principle of scarcity. Using scarcity in this way creates a sense of exclusivity. For example, a sneaker company might release a new set of new trainers that are only available for a limited time to play on the principle of scarcity. By making the sneakers rare and exclusive, thereby using that principle of scarcity to increase demand. Anticipation and FOMO. The fear of missing out, or FOMO, is a really powerful motivator, and you can use it to influence behaviour. When people anticipate the availability of something, it becomes more sought after and more in demand. Movie studios do this by releasing trailers of movies that aren't going to be coming out for another few months. The studio is using the principle of scarcity to create demand through anticipation. Collectibles and rare items are often highly valued due to their scarcity and difficulty to obtain. For example, somebody might pay thousands of dollars for a stamp just because it's very rare and hard to find. The last principle is unity. In recent times, another principle has been added to the 6 original principles, that of unity and influence. This principle is based on the idea that we are more likely to comply with requests or follow the advice of people who we consider as being part of our own group or who can influence us. Unity is based on the idea that people are more likely to comply or follow the lead of people we feel like are with our own group. According to this principle, we tend to be more cooperative and trusting of those who we see being like us and as part of our social group. Here's an example of how this works in real life. In sports and other competitive activities, people often feel a sense of unity with the other people who also like those teams. That feeling of unity can also create feelings of trust and cooperation and motivation to work together towards a common goal. Also, when we share a common identity with others, such as nationality, ethnicity, or religion, we often feel a sense of unity with others that share that same identity. Social movements also rely on this principle of unity to create momentum and achieve their goals. By creating a sense of shared identity and common purpose, social movements can mobilise people to take action and work towards social change. Another example of this is company culture. Companies often work hard to create a sense of unity and shared values in their company culture. Here's an example how you can use these principles in real life. You can apply the principle of liking in your real life. If you're trying to persuade family or friends to do something, you can pay them a compliment and play on the principle of liking. You can also find common areas of interest to increase the likelihood that they're going to comply with your request. So if, for example, you're trying to get your friend to try a new restaurant with you, you could try something like this. You could say to them, I know you're a foodie and I know you love trying new things. Why don't we try out this new restaurant? I think you're going to really enjoy this place. Plus they have great vegetarian options just like you prefer. By emphasising your friend's love of food and vegetarian interests, you're creating the principle of liking to create a sense of similarity and trust, which increases the likelihood that they're going to be open to trying that new restaurant with you. You can use the principle of scarcity in your business life. An example of how the principle of scarcity is used in business, you can use the principle of scarcity in your business. For instance, if you're a salesperson or a marketer, you can create a sense of urgency and exclusivity around your product to increase demand and motivate people. You could use phrases like a limited time offer or only a few spaces left to emphasise that your product or services is rare and only available for a short amount of time. By doing so, you're using that principle of scarcity to make your product seem more valuable and sought after. Another example could be creating exclusive deals for your loyal customers, making them feel special and unique. The sense of exclusivity creates a stronger bond and brand loyalty, which can translate into increased sales and repeat business. Robert Cialdini's Principles of Persuasion offer valuable insights into how we can influence others and achieve our goals. By understanding the principles of reciprocity, scarcity, social proof, authority, liking, commitment and unity, we can become more persuasive and effective communicators, both in our personal and professional lives. However, it's important to use these principles ethically and responsibly, always keeping in mind the interests and well-being of those we're trying to influence. Thanks for watching this video. Please remember to subscribe and I'll be back next week with another one.